If you were hoping that because Alabama sent so many guys to the NFL draft that they would regress this year, you might be in for a long college football season because Alabama dismantles a top 15 opponent week 1 in Miami, and we've got to talk about it because there's a lot for us to break down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you, so hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited about how Alabama came out against Miami? Let me know what you're thinking about how the defense did, and then let me know what you're thinking about Bryce Young and his first start played sensational, and you know we're going to talk about it. If you enjoy this content, be sure to like and comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. But with all that being said, let's break this down because Alabama had a great season opener, and we have got to talk about first and foremost this offense because we've had a lot of talk around the offseason surrounding that Alabama defense and the expectations that we thought they could have and how good they would be, and they did nothing but reassure that this group on Alabama's defense is going to be special. But the reason why I want to open up talking about the offense is Alabama lost 8 starters on this offense. They replace a lot of new faces on the offensive line at quarterback at wide receiver, but you wouldn't know it if you didn't know any better. Bryce Young played sensationally, finding his way into the record books of Alabama for most yards in a start and most touchdowns as a first-time starter for the Crimson Tide. The quarterback out of California showed exactly why so many people have been excited about him, and one of the things I really want to highlight is something I've talked about Bryce Young at length with. The offensive line for Alabama had a good outing. It's a unit that will continue to progress as the season goes along because there are new faces along it, and that's only natural with the offensive line, but they still did a really solid job. Not only in keeping Bryce up, but when you look at the running backs and the success they were able to have, the offensive line did a really solid job tonight, and it's going to continue to grow. But any time where there was a lapse in that coverage for Bryce and the defense got home, his mobility and escapability was put on full display last night, and Bryce out the pocket was an absolute magician this evening. I mean, from the touchdown he threw, we got to see when the play breaks down, this kid right here has that escapability, and he's not running the ball for the sake of running the ball. He's running the ball with his eyes up, scanning the defense, making reads, and finding his open target, and that's going to pay massive dividends for Alabama. Young ends up finishing the night with a stat line of 27 of 38, 344 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 71% completion percentage. And once again, this is against a top 15 opponent in the nation. This was a quality opponent that Alabama's offense went out there and absolutely dismantled. The other thing I wanted to talk about were the tight ends, because the tight end play right now was great for Alabama. Cameron Latou had himself a ball game, but now I want you to imagine how great this offense will be in its tight end play once J-Bill gets back into this rotation. Once he comes back in, teams are going to have an absolute time trying to scheme for the threat of both Jaleel Billingsley and Cameron Latou, plus the running backs and a mobile quarterback who, oh yeah, by the way, if he doesn't take off running, he's going to continue scanning the field and he's going to find someone open. The offense for Alabama has got a lot of synergy right now. The running back play was exactly what we thought it was. Brian Robinson had a great night tonight. Jace McClellan looked really good. Trey Sanders came in, had a really good evening. Roydell Williams had the fumble, but then after that, we know how talented he is. He's a very talented back, but Alabama is not short on the running back talent, and they went and showed it this evening. The other area I'd like to hit on the offense is the wide receiver room. Jamison Williams from Ohio State coming in and going over 100 yards, getting that long touchdown throw where he absolutely burned Ivy on the long 94-yard touchdown pass from Bryce Young. We got to see that speed displayed against Miami's secondary this evening, and Jamison Williams certainly has it. But John Mechie also had himself an evening, and when you look at the stat sheet, Bryce Young got a lot of different guys involved. A lot of guys had over 10 yards receiving and averaged over 10 yards receiving. So it was very impressive to see not only Jamison Williams go over 100, not only Mechie being a featured piece, but then how many other targets Bryce Young was able to hit and get the ball to in a night where Latu had a great outing. J-Mo had a great outing. It was just very impressive for the Alabama offense. This is an offensive unit that I've been on record before saying I thought would come together quicker than most people expected, but it was hard for me to even anticipate them hitting the ground that well from game one. This offense right here is still gelling together, and I think that's the scariest thing, is Bryce is still learning these receivers in a game-time setting. They're still gelling together, and they're going to continue getting better and better, and I cannot wait to see how this offense continues evolving. Bill O'Brien, what a play-calling evening he had tonight. The offense looked sensational, and any question about Bill O'Brien, I think, was answered tonight. It's the first game. There's a long season. I'm not trying to overreact, but the simple truth is Alabama just went out there against a top 15 opponent, and its offense looked like it was still on beat from last year, even though they lost 8 starters. A Heisman Trophy finalist at quarterback, a Heisman Trophy winner at wide receiver, another first-round wide receiver, a first-round tackle, and a first-round running back. And that's what your offense just did. Sky's the limit for that Alabama offense. But now, I've taken up enough of y'all's time talking about the offense. Let's talk about Alabama's defense, because Alabama's defense is bringing back joyless murder ball, which every Alabama fan loves. We love our joyless murder ball. And it was awesome tonight watching that defense play. The only bad thing I can say about the defense tonight is Chris Allen's injury. I'm not saying there aren't little things that can be improved upon. There certainly are. It's the game of football. There's always something to work on. But Chris Allen's injury, that right there made my heart drop when I saw him on the cart. This is an individual who came back as a super senior. He had a really productive year last year, but he was somebody that if you looked at the landscape of college football, if he backed up last year with another productive year this year, he could have really risen up draft boards. The good news for Allen in the limited time he did play tonight, man, was he on fire. He looked like he was picking up exactly where he left off, and I'm really hoping, going to have a quick recovery. I'm really rooting for him. It was a terrible injury to see for an individual that looked to be poised for a really profitable season in terms of draft cachet and in terms of personal production. So prayers up for him. Hopefully he gets good. Hopefully it's not too serious, but seeing him in that boot was a real downer for me personally. The other injury we need to talk about is Henry To'oTo'o. Nick Saban said that he thinks he'll be okay, and luckily To'oTo'o was seen celebrating multiple times with a brace on his elbow, so it didn't seem to be too serious, and hopefully Alabama's defense can get him back sooner rather than later, because I really want to focus on To'oTo'o. We got to see tonight, for the most part, what that Alabama defense is capable of. Will Anderson led the way with 9 tackles and a sack, but he affected the quarterback so many times in this game. The other area where I thought it was really good for Alabama is in Chris Allen's absence. When he went down, Drew Sanders came in there and played high-level football. Drew Sanders, a very athletic individual, 5-star coming out of Denton Ryan High School in Texas. Ryan is a powerhouse in the state of Texas. He's an individual that has supreme athleticism and displayed that consistently in high school, and he showed it tonight. Miami tried to attack the edges on quick little screens and take advantage of overloading blocks on that side, and anytime they did, I mean, Drew Sanders had a few times where he sniffed it out, and he stopped it for a minimal gain, and it displayed his athleticism from getting from his edge position out to the outside to assist the cornerbacks and the defensive backs. Miami tried to attack in different ways tonight, and Alabama's defense, for the most part, was very successful in stopping them. They held Miami under 300 total yards, which when you have an offense that has the explosive capability of Miami's, that's very impressive. Especially when you have an athletic quarterback in D'Eriq King, who's a very smart guy. D'Eriq King didn't have the evening he was looking for tonight because Alabama's defense was stingy. But he's a really smart quarterback. He's a dangerous quarterback because he's very athletic. He's very experienced. But that Alabama defense tonight, they were getting turnovers. They were getting stops. And the linebacking play in particular was really solid. Alabama's secondary is a secondary that was moving around before this game with the absence of Helms. It's a secondary that will continue to progress as the season goes on. It was only Jalen Armour-Davis's first start, but still, at the end of the game, we're looking at a game where Alabama's defense held Miami under 14 points throughout the entirety of the game, and their points actually came off of an Alabama penalty that was a questionable call, to say the least. This right here is a great way to start for Alabama. And if you're looking at the way the next few weeks will wrap up, Alabama gets some tune-up games where anything they identify in this game, they get an opponent to where they can go out there and tune some things up. Some younger guys can continue to play, because we did see some true freshmen making an impact. JoJo Earl in the slot position was an individual who had 2 catches for 25 yards. I think he's going to be a really impactful player as the season goes on. It's just the wide receiver room, man. It's head spinning that you can lose 4 guys in 2 years to the first round of the NFL draft, and still we get to see that out of that wide receiver room. I mean, it is absolutely head spinning how talented that Alabama wide receiver room is, and what a result for the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, that defense, and heck, the team as a whole. Alabama is rolling, and as a Tide fan, it was awesome to see, and I'm just super thankful college football is back. Hop down in the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.